Possibly that's because that's the household that they made by laying up with these pookies and ray rays and having children with men that they knew were not going to be around. Again, 99% of the time, these women know these dudes. I mean, if a guy has 4 kids that he's not taking care of, why are you gonna give him a 4? You think you're gonna give him a 5th? And you think that you're gonna be different? That he's gonna take care of your child? So women, they sit here and they desire these thugs and they choose these thugs and they lay out with them, and then you get upset with the repercussion. Now, as far as, women need to we need to hold women accountable for their bad choices, not sit up here and give them excuses. But like I said, this household that these women hold it on, this is a household that they created. So you create this household, you need to be responsible for it. End of story.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate.
But the fact is, boys raised by their fathers or raised with their fathers are least likely to go to jail, least likely to be suspended from school, least likely to have behavior problems, least likely to commit a crime, least likely to be in gangs, and so on and so forth, are producing children with a lot of women. Something like roughly about 20% of black men are responsible for like 60 to 70%, like 70% of the children or something like that. That means you have a small percentage of pookies and ray rays that these women are choosing to make the bad decision to be with. Again, not good, decent black men's fault.
That personality has a history.
If she's picking Pookie and Ray Ray instead of
you're making her a scapegoat.
No, she's picking a scapegoat.
No.
There's good quality men that they ignore.
Why she even got it? Why is there even a?
Women are responsible for it. They are raising these boys to be Pookies and Ray Rays. Now you ask, well, where the f*** shamed them away from doing that? Plus, we also had the evidence of what happens with women who mess with those dudes, and well, they end up being single mothers with a bunch of kids. And back then, you're talking about that was shameful. A woman getting pregnant without being married was an absolute shame. It's not shameful today. Now we celebrate it, but because you give them all the rights and authority with no responsibility. They have free this, free everything. They don't have to be responsible for anything, and that's a bad combination. This is the origin of the ghetto mentality, the hoods. I talk about the ghetto mentality, the hoods. I talk about the ghetto mentality all the time. It's a mentality, it's a childlike mentality that put heavy emphasis on quick gratification, satisfying my desires today. Very little emphasis on delaying gratification so that I can have better and more in the future. It's all about living for here and now. In these housing projects, raising these children, raising these boys to be emotional like them, and this is where we got the thugs and the extra pookies and ray rays. You can't blame men for that. You cannot blame men for that. Well, in order for men to be leaders, people have to fall in. And you can't put a gun to somebody's head and force them to allow you to lead them. So, but here's the problem with that is if you have a problem, if you have a serious issue, you cannot deal with the problem at the repercussion level. You have to go to the source. You have to go to the source of the problem, and that source is the women. Okay? We have to deal with the women. The children are just a byproduct of bad decisions. So dealing with the children is not going to solve the problem. All it's going to do is just cover the problem up. And again, but this is the water spilling on the floor analogy. If somebody set out to wash their dishes and you put the stop in the drain to stop the water from draining out, and you turn the faucet on to fill the sink up, and you get distracted by something, before you know it, the water has reached the top of the sink and it's spilling onto the floor. Well, what do? Well, obviously, the first thing you do is you turn the faucet off to stop the faucet from putting more water in the sink to spill over into the floor. Then you remove the stopper. Again, when you put your hands in that water, your hand is going. You can address that later. You remove the stopper to let the water drain. Then you proceed to clean the water on the floor, clean up the water on the floor. Now, wouldn't it be asinine? Wouldn't it be absolute insanity for me to immediately start dealing with the water on the floor, and I'm rushing and running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to clean up all the water on the floor while the water just keeps spitting all over the floor? Address these women for making this bad behavior. Once we address the women, then we can deal with the children. Now, if Dr. Umar Johnson really cared about the black community, all he's doing by trying to hold men accountable is simply exacerbating the problem. You're not holding women accountable, and they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. And as men, all these good men who had nothing to do, you expected us to, put on the cape and come in and save the day.